Hello, everyone. Welcome to Relative Pitch, Episode 2, Life as a Musician in a COVID World and Beyond. My name is Anthony Morris, and I'm joined with Lauren Green and Michael Brown. We hope that you all enjoyed our last episode and getting to know us. This week, we wanted to talk about how we are dealing with COVID and some of our prediction of how the music world is going to be in the future. Lauren, why don't you go ahead and start off with some of your COVID stories from this past crazy summer?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, pre-COVID was when I was doing my graduate auditions, and so was Michael. He'll talk about his experience with that as well. So I had actually just finished up my last audition, I believe, the weekend before the week where COVID really hit, or school started like closing down in the US at least. And it was very odd. It was really weird because it kind of seemed like the beginning of the week was everyone talking about it, right? And just the it was impending. Like we were like, is this really going to happen? Is it not? And every day of that week, I just remember it kept getting more and more serious, and people were talking about switching to online, being out for a week or a month or the semester. And I remember, I think I was preparing recordings for Swanee, the Swanee Music Festival, and it was a Thursday, and my mind, I could not concentrate at all. I was distracted. All my recordings in my head, I was just thinking, am I even going to be able to do this? Like, what's going to happen? What does this mean? What does this mean? It was so new. It was so new. And so I remember I called Michael, and I was on campus recording, and I was like, hey, can I just come over? Like, I'm really distracted. I just need to be like with people right now. And I think you ended up coming home too later on, Anthony, and then we all just were talking and went out and did stuff. But for me, thankfully, I got to do all of my auditions. Like, none of them were canceled because of this. I know some people weren't able to go to their auditions. Um, the main things for me that were like canceled because of this, which everyone has different things, but thankfully I was able to do my senior recital the last semester, so I didn't have to compromise doing that, which I was very thankful for. But my last studio recital, it didn't happen. We did, like a online thing, but it wasn't in person. And the last concert for symphony was supposed to be Capriccio Español, which it's a huge flute cadenza. I was really looking forward to it. There's so many solos that were going to be amazing, and both of those concerts for symphony orchestra and wind ensemble are going to be really spectacular. So that was really hard to think about, that was the last time that I was going to be playing with those groups, and we didn't even realize it was our last time when we were doing it, which was really hard. And of course, obviously, all of us, I feel like the biggest thing may have been just graduation, and maybe not even the ceremony, but like the things surrounding it, right? Like the dinners we would have had together, the conversations, just sharing in that moment with our colleagues and our friends, I think was really the hardest part about this situation. But of course, it would be really risky to do it, and we understand why it happened. But it was really surreal, I believe, they announced that it finally wasn't going to be a thing. And so it was just really, it came out of nowhere, but it didn't, right? It didn't come out of nowhere, but it felt like it came out of nowhere. So those were kind of the things for me that kind of halted once COVID stopped. I know Michael may have had some similar things happen for him.
Yeah, well, I didn't really know about the COVID until school got canceled. Honestly, I don't keep up with the news, especially in the heat of everything, because like that last year I was teaching at 3 different schools in person. I had my like private studio going, and it had like quintet. We were preparing for a quintet recital and my senior recital, and I was going to take the president's own cornet spot audition and the Florida Orchestra assistant principal audition, like over the next, like the course of this year. And everything got canceled, and it was like tragic because like for my senior recital, I had like a whole concerto I was going to do. Anthony was going to be on the last half of it. It was going to be friends and brass ensemble. So it's like me and my professor, Dr. Doug Lindsay, was going to play a duet. me and Andrew Barry, who's a euphonium player, we had to do it commissioned for us. And then me and both of my professors were going to play Song for Hope for Ryan Anthony, who has sadly passed. Love you, Ryan Anthony. And that was going to be like the culmination of like, finally, I'm leaving. Goodbye. Love you. To the next step. And then I was going to just start my auditions because I've never taken a professional audition. And I was like, now's the time, summer. But yeah, and then Capriccio Espanol. But, COVID, which I didn't even know about until school got canceled. And I was like, what are y'all freaking out about? Like, why is school getting canceled now? Like, look it up on my phone. I'm like, oh, this was happening. Okay. So that was my story of last semester.
I will say that last semester was probably one of the most hardest semesters, and it had nothing to do with grades, nothing, when you think of college, you're like, oh, you got this class and this class. It had nothing to do with that. It was just because the experience in itself was gone. It was just kind of, robbed from us. Like Lauren said, our graduation, I mean, I didn't really care about the ceremony. I mean, that was more for my family who wanted to see me, even though they were stingy on their tickets, but that's a different story. It was just the experience of graduating, getting our bachelor's degrees. For I think most of us, we were the first ones in our families to actually get a bachelor's degree and go to college. So that was something, we were all looking forward to do, but that was gone. I mean, we still got it, but it's the principle of it all. In my last semester, as I said in the first episode, it was jam-packed. I mean, student teaching, I was, teaching high school with some of my great CT, my cooperating teacher, Garrett Chain and Brandon Worley. They were phenomenal. So if you're listening, thank you so much for helping me and guiding me through that semester. But I also had recital plans. I was going to conduct on Michael's recital. I was going to conduct on our friend Andrew Barry's recital. There was all these things lined up, and then everything was just like, oh, you're done. Some of my recital footage was going to be, I was looking forward to applying to different conducting things. Michigan State's conducting symposiums. Sometimes they take videos, Northwesterns, and even the Midwest conducting symposium. That was, that was going to be my videos to send. And yeah, nothing. And also that semester was my last one. So it's time to find a job. And let me just say, trying to find a job in the middle of COVID is not the funnest thing in the world. I mean, usually when you have a job interview, you'll get to see the school, you get to talk, face to face with the principal, but it's just like what we're doing now. If you're watching our YouTube video, it looks just like this, where might be 6 or 7 people on the call and everyone's asking me questions that I'm just answering the best that I can. But there's this disconnect because I am a person who likes to see body language. I'm a person who feeds off of the energy in the room, and I cannot see that. So some of the questions I were asked, I just kind of looked at them very dumb because, like, I don't know, like, am I doing this right? Am I answering the questions? Like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. So that was a terrifying situation going on. But at the end of the day, I guess it worked out. I have a job and everything, and I love exactly where I'm at. So it did end up, doing some good, and we're playing and we're singing and everything right now. But those, what was it, 3 to 4 months, y'all? Like, I think it was 3 to 4 months or something like that. Excuse my language. It was hell, honestly. Like, it really was, because one thing that I love to do is conduct. You can ask Michael, you can ask Lauren, you can ask any of my friends. Michael, we used to live together. He would walk in my room and I'm just sitting here conducting in the air. I have my AirPods and just conducting. And because of the COVID, I just kind of put it down. Like, I just didn't have the motivation to do it anymore because I was like, what's going to happen next? So it took a long time. I originally said in the first episode, some of the songs that I had planned for my recital, I still have yet to go back to those songs and try to conduct them because it just brings back those memories. And, you know, it's a little sad. It is a little sad. And I think we've all had our things. I know Michael and Lauren, they had their big auditions planned and everything. So we were like great senior college students. Had our careers ready. We had everything ready. And then they say, oh, everything's canceled. Good luck. Best of luck to you. Bye-bye. Um, that was a little sad though. But so what y'all like, what were some of the other things that y'all had to deal with going on?
So for me, I think the hardest part as a performance major, COVID, was not being able to perform. Just, being very blunt about it. The concerts being canceled, recitals being canceled. It was really hard because I, like a lot of other people, thrive on deadlines and knowing that there's something coming up to look forward to. So for it to be, when was it, about March, and about mid-March, and everything seemed to stop, it was kind of hard to stay motivated. And I don't think I would have been as successful with continuous practicing if Michael didn't suggest that we did the 100 days of practice challenge on Instagram. And if you don't know what that is, it is a challenge people do. I mean, you can do it on whatever platform you like, but we chose to do it on Instagram, where you post a segment of your practice session like every day for 100 days continuously is what you're supposed to do for it. Now, people, there, of course, things happen, and you might need a break or everything, but we actually tried to stick to the continuous 1 a day challenge, and it was a lot. I don't think we realized how much it actually took to like finish that challenge, and everyone was coming out like sending us stuff like, wow, I cannot believe you guys are doing this. When we hit the 25-day mark, 50, 75, and then 100, it was a huge milestone to complete, especially during times like this, because it wasn't just COVID. It was also a lot of things just going on political wise with our country. And so to maintain that and to commit a part of our lives to that still, I'm very thankful for that, because I don't know if I would have been as willing to do that every single day if I didn't have that incentive. So that's kind of something that I tried to do to stay motivated during. And of course, I was still learning music. We had little virtual recitals, and jury is still online and everything. So those were good to work towards. But I think it was just weird. It really was just odd, of not knowing exactly what was, because we were all waiting to see what are our schools going to want us to do. Are we going to even be at school, or is it going to be all online? That was a huge thing for me. I'm like, am I really going to move to Albuquerque, or am I staying here? So it was like kind of, and I remember the week that finally was like, no, you have to move, that I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to like find a place and figure out how I'm going to get there. And trying to move during a pandemic across country, would not recommend. Just would not recommend. It was, it could have been more stressful. I will say that I'm happy with the way it turned out, but it definitely was something that I had to overcome. And I'm stronger because of it. I will say that. But yeah, it was really hard. I think the transition from either bachelor's to occupation like Anthony, or bachelor's to master's, was just something that is already tough enough, but then adding on the layer of just uncertainty and like instability, because we were not sure exactly what it's going to look like. That was probably the scariest part. It's like we didn't know what we were kind of walking into. So that was but I think the 100 days, like I said, was a really good thing to keep me motivated during and everything. And Michael can talk more about his time with that.
Yeah. The weirdest part about the last semester was when we found out we couldn't do any more live performances. So why am I even doing a senior recital? Let me be real. Like, why? If I'm just going to record it in a garage for Facebook Live or for YouTube, you know what I mean? and do my concert notes or program notes, whatever they're called and stuff. So like, that's what I had to do. Like, it gave me something to prepare for every day, but I'm over here like, I do well when I'm always busy, not when I have nothing to do. That's why even this master's degree is a little crazy, because you have more freedom than undergrad. But I'm over here like, I don't have to be at school today till 12. And then I'm only have to be at school for 2 hours. What do I do? And so like the pandemic actually helped me learn how to be productive when I had nothing going on. But like, it was hard to just be like, okay, it's 1 p.m. I'm finally getting warmed up. When it's usually in school is 7 or 8 in the morning. So it's like, I had to adjust to things. And then part of my thing was, how much time do I spend with my family now that I have this unbelievable opportunity to be at my dad's house? And then how much time do I still practice? And then do this schoolwork and then do this. But like, the whole thing for me was preparing for a senior recital that was not going to be heard in public or live. That was the hardest part, where I was like, what am I practicing for? A grade? Like, tests are for grades, even though they shouldn't be. Tests should be for knowledge, but that's just what it was the last little bit. And I'm like, this is great. I hope this is not what a Zoom University does from now on out. But I know Anthony had a time or two getting ready for school under these extreme circumstances, teaching 7 different grades, 6 grades.
Yeah, so I teach 6 through 12. And so I got officially hired in June. And so I was like, yay, I have a job. Like, you know, when you're in college, you're like, okay, let me get a job, let me get a job, let me get a job. Boom. You finally got a job. Oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? Now, in college, when you're taking your methods classes and all these other classes, they tell you, all right, this is due, this is how you do it, boom, 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 boom. But when you're by yourself, nobody's telling you what to do. It's all on you. So my first hurdle, basically, which they can attest to, because we actually took a trip down to Jacksonville to visit Michael, and they were like, we need a marching show. Still, marching band was still being played. In Florida, we have MPA, and when I got hired, MPA was still a thing, and they haven't, you know, canceled it or anything. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to find a show. How do I do that? Everything that I learned in college just kind of went away. Like, it was like I was brand new at all of this. So I was at Michael's house, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm not someone who gets stressed out by things. I usually am great at, especially under pressure. I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing. When I tell you that was the most stressful day of my life, luckily I had these two with me to really just kind of help me through it, because I can remember sitting at the dinner table at like 12 o'clock, just sitting there with my head, like my hands is on my head, like, what am I about to do right now? How do I do this? What do I do now? What is this? What is that? How do I even try to find stuff? Like, how do you find a marching show? How? For about 30 something kids. Like, how do you do that? And I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, that was my first hurdle. And then, so I did host dressing, and yes, there were some libations of courting, you know, to help. However, the next day, I get a text, MPA is canceled. It felt like a ton of weight just got off of my shoulders, because I didn't have to worry about that. I could literally just focus on first day, what am I going to teach? How am I going to teach? Everything like that. Because I got hired in June. July starts marching camps. And I was hearing other, you know, people that graduated with me. I mean, Michael and Lauren, they were already contracted to do marching camps. And I'm sitting here like, I ain't got nothing planned just yet. What is going on? But MPA was canceled. So I was like, okay, so I don't have to get a marching show, but we are still going to do something for the football games. So that was a load of stress off of me. when that came in, y'all, when I tell you, I was like, Michael, Lauren, I need you to go to the store. I need cookies. I need cake. I need candy. I need all these things, like all of my just comfort foods I need it right now. I need everything. Buy me the whole birthday cake from Publix, Sam's, wherever. Please bring it to me because yesterday was one of the most stressful days of my life. Okay. But again, COVID, it's so Michael said he learned how to deal with it, and find ways to cope. For me, I stayed in my bed for 24 hours and then repeated the next day, the next day, next day. I took that time to not do anything. However, I am also a person who I thrive on deadlines. When I know something is due here, I have something to look forward to. COVID was not good for me because there was nothing really to look forward to. Um, before getting my job, I had interviews. I'm like, all right, on Thursday I have an interview. Okay. Up Thursday morning, here's my interview. Boom. Like there was nothing else to do. I moved back home with my parents and I just literally woke up, watched YouTube videos, said hello to my dad, hi mom, hello brother, ate a lot of food, got back in bed, hit that repeat button the next day, and that was just my routine. So it was very, very interesting going through that time and being stressed out of my life. Now I would say I am great. I found my rhythm in teaching. Everything is wonderful. We just had a football game. We record usually on Saturday. So I just had a football game yesterday and the kids are having fun time. I'm actually having fun. So to know that all of my stress from the summer has kind of dissolved. One thing that I will also say about stress, so I developed hives, okay? So hives sometimes is caused by stress. And this summer through COVID really put stress on me. And as I said, I'm not a stressful person. Dude, like I have never been a stressful person, like a stressed out person. But because of everything that was going on in COVID, you're a new teacher. You have to do this, you have to do this. Hives just came all over my body in like big hives. I was showing Michael and Lauren and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. Michael always loves to make the joke of like, my body hates me. It's because my body does hate me. And it was feeling how much stress was, put upon me. And it just was like, well, we gotta deal with this stress somehow. So that's what happened. Now everything is great. I found my rhythm. I love, 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 love teaching band, teaching choir, just teaching music. I will say one anecdote is I love teaching sixth graders. When I was in college, I was like, I don't want to teach sixth graders. I don't, nope, 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 nope. But I have fallen in love with teaching beginners, teaching them notes and rhythms and instruments. I love that. So this it's only been this is about to start week 6 and I am in love. So that is one good thing that did come out of COVID. Lauren, so how was your stress? How was dealing with all that?
So it was very interesting for me because like we all thrive on deadlines. We all need that something that's like, oh, this is coming up. Make sure you're prepared for that. And there was always something coming up. So having nothing coming up for the almost like March through the summer was really hard. And for me, I had to find ways to stimulate my brain and be like try to be in the moment but away from the world a little bit. So I started like coloring. Like I got those adult coloring books with like the huge thing of I got the color pencils, the markers, and it's like something that seems so trivial, but I would put in my AirPods, like play like a symphony or some like a piece of the day that I really wanted to listen to, and I would just like color and really get lost in what I was doing and try to forget what was going on around me for the minute. And that time, like that was like really sacred time. I needed that. Once I got a taste of it, I was like, I have to do this every day or I don't feel balanced anymore, because it just allowed me to be away from everything that was going on and just really focus my energy into something. And I liked doing it. It was fun at the end, seeing the finished product. And I wouldn't try to make a scale. I would just try to, pick colors as I went and just, try to make something out of it. And that was something that was really fun and not something that, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't productive, but it's not like I was submitting it to like a art museum or something, but it was just something for me to do that was really fun. And I just got sick of screens. I got so sick of looking at a screen because of like just classes and typing and all this stuff, sending emails and like just preparing for my master's. I felt like I was always eyes on a screen. And so during that time, I really wanted to get away from it because I can get sensory overload like really easily. Like if I'm just on screens too much, I'm like, no, I can't do it anymore. So having that away time, I started going on walks more, which were really nice, and just remembering like, oh, the outside, that's a thing. I forgot what anything besides the practice room looked like during that semester preparing for auditions and going to auditions. And so and that was something my studio professor at UNM, the first studio class we had, she asked like, what were some things musically and non-musically that you did during COVID and like to help and everything. And I said that, everyone was like, yes, like we love coloring. And it's just something that's so therapeutic. Cleaning is also therapeutic to me. So organizing, they disagree with me. But me personally, like I love seeing something chaotic turn anew and looking just really organized and everything. But moving, it wasn't that. I disagree with moving. I did not enjoy that, but it was nice seeing everything kind of put away and gone. So yeah, that was kind of something. It was stressful of just filling the day. I think it was just like everyone's desire to fill the day with something productive. And I just met up with old friends from undergrad who they were just talking about how they felt really discouraged and how they weren't practicing every day and how they felt bad because they weren't. And I just remember just being like, mental health is like number one always. And sometimes a break day is more important than pulling out your instrument or warming, vocally warming up or anything. Because it makes it even better. Having that rest day in between can really do a lot more than actually practicing. And so that's something I've had to start feeling less guilty about. Not that I actually am practicing regularly now these days versus the end of the summer where I was moving. But if there are days that come and go where I choose not to practice, I try to tell myself, don't pressure yourself into feeling like you have to practice. Like if you can and you think it would be like really helpful, absolutely do it. But then there are some days where you're like, take a break. You need it. It might be more helpful than anything. After the 100 days of practice challenge that we did, I took a hiatus for a while and just put it away and was like, I'm just going to focus on preparing for this move and figuring out other life things. And it was very helpful. And I didn't lose, I was scared, like, oh, every day I pass, I forget one scale. No, that doesn't happen. Like that's not a thing. It actually just calms your mind. It just like secures things that were already in your fingers, muscle memory, all that fun stuff. It's like when you study right before bed and then you wake up for your test and it feels like it's just glued in there. Like I love that feeling. And I think like taking breaks away really help with that. And so, yeah, those were the kind of things I did to deal with stress, were just kind of getting out of the moment or getting out of the world and putting myself in the moment and just being with myself, learning how to be like, okay with just me, and like living on my own for the first time, like just me living on my own has really shown me a lot about like me as an individual and being able to be very happy and satisfied with just myself and everything. And I think we're all actually living on our own right now. Well, Michael has a dog, so which has been a fun new thing for him. If you want to talk about your how you deal with your stress.
But before Michael, I just want to be like, we're all living by ourselves now, and both of them know I am an introvert. Like I love being by myself. And so during COVID, it was like, oh wow, I'm by myself, but I'm with my family, like my mom and my dad and everything. But like now that I'm by myself, I am so at peace. When you get your own place, Literally, the Ari Lennox song, New Apartment, I was banging that when I got my new apartment. Like, it's just so peaceful. It's wonderful. Michael loves dogs, so like he has a dog and that's peaceful for him. But like, again, what Lauren said is that mental health. Find something that you love to do, um, and do it. One thing that I struggle with, a lot of things that I love to do, we're all gone. Like, I am a big, and from the poster, I'm a big cruiser. Like, I love cruise ships. I love just going on YouTube and looking up cruise ships. Because of COVID, cruising is canceled. So I'm like, okay, well, that's over. But I found things, just honestly, for me, talking with my family, having hour-long conversations with my mom and my dad, that was peaceful for me. Or helping my brother decide what his major is going to be, because he's a junior right now, so he's really looking into college. Helping him get ready for that stuff, that's peaceful. That is, putting my mind at rest from the stresses of the world. So find something that you love to do. It can be something small or it can be something big. Find what you love to do, and please, please, please take mental health days when you need it to. Don't let nobody tell you that you don't need that, because it's your body, it's your mind, and you need to have peace of mind. Okay? That's my little PSA for all the listeners around here.
So I'm going to use that as a segue, also dealing with my stress. So when I deal with stress, I just compartmentalize, put in this nice little bottle, screw the tap on extra tight where you can't get it unloosed the next time. And then it all just explodes. And I am a raging bad person for 3 days, maybe 4, maybe a week, who never knows. Or I just have a meltdown. Either way, I just like to compartmentalize, especially during the heaviness. But like what I did, which is something I don't do, well, I cook a lot. I like to host. When we were in Kennesaw, I used to grill out every other weekend pretty much and have a bunch of people over, watch a football game, or we just talk. So I just cooked and cooked more. And then we have 3 bulldogs, a Chihuahua, and a flat-faced Persian cat at my dad's house. A lot of animals. So you don't have to think about anything else but animals, and they love attention. So I ended up taking one of the bulldogs with me up to Michigan. And I've never been a homebody. I like going out and talking to people and doing stuff, spending money. It's my favorite thing to do in the world. But like being here, I've become more of a homebody, watch movies, this, that, and the other, spend time with my dog, cook a lot more, sit on my porch, drink coffee, what normal people do. I usually like to go to a coffee shop and sit down and then just keep ordering coffee. And then you're like $30 later, you're like, I've had a lot of coffee. I'm not going to be able to sleep for the rest of the day. But one thing I had to separate, especially with practicing and stuff and being by yourself, what I noticed a lot is I would not play well 6 days out of the week. And then my lesson, I would play great. Then the next 6 days were bad. My next lesson, I played great. So I had to focus a lot on separating my personal performance and how I sounded on the trumpet from Michael Shannon Brown Jr. Trumpet, Michael Shannon Brown Jr. used to be there, and now I'm like, we're 2 different things. Like, I am a trumpet player, but I'm not just a trumpet player. And so I had to find hobbies and stuff, and I've picked up watching football again. I used to do that a lot when I was in my youth. Go Dogs. Go Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that's a big thing that we struggle with that people don't talk about, is how to separate our performance life from our personal life. And I've struggled with this since sophomore year, undergrad. And it's just been a big thing that's weighed on me, especially as a teacher. I would always say, if my students don't perform X, well, I'm a bad teacher, I'm a bad person, end of period. You know what I mean? There's no talking me off of that route, that I'm just bad, a person, because I'm a bad teacher, because they couldn't perform this well enough. You know what I mean? Not being like a normal, same person. I gave them everything I could do, and they performed at this. That's where they're at in their life. And separating us from YouTube stars is another thing that I think this generation of musicians, we see people our age doing fantastic things that we cannot do. And we try to push our development way past where it should be, playing pieces or doing stuff that we had no business doing, like at all. But we want to push our development to be them. That's where they are at in their development. They are not you. You are not they. You know what I mean? And that's where biggest struggle of COVID is separating the way I play the trumpet and the way I am every day. Best answer, dogs and a lot of steak and chicken. And McDonald's French fries.
You know, that's a big thing of separating yourself. I mean, now that I am a full-time teacher, telling myself, if my kids are not getting something right when I think they should, it's like, I go home and I'm like, oh, why aren't they getting this? But you have to realize the development. Things are just naturally not going to click on the first try. So I feel like all of us have been through that, and I'm pretty sure our teachers who taught us have been through that as well. So I think that's just maybe not yours, but you know how we have to do that. Like, we just have to separate ourselves. We are not our instrument. We're not our voice. We are our voice, but we're not like the soprano. We're not a bass, a tenor. We're not a flute. We're not a trumpet. We're not a conductor. We are Anthony Keith Morris Jr., Lauren Green, Michael Shannon Brown Jr. We are us, not our occupation or instrument or voice.
Yeah, I mean, I agree so much with everything that y'all just said. Like, I think our generation is really starting to say, hey, we're not just about our, like, what we're doing in school or what our careers or everything. We are ourselves, and this is what we choose to do. And we have so many different interests that are non-music related. And what the problem with associating yourself with just what you do for your for schooling or for your occupation is, yeah, if you have a bad day, it can ruin your day. I remember whenever I was going through graduate school auditions, and there was one day I wanted to do a mock audition for Michael, and it was not going well. For some reason, there was a mental block in my head, and I remember, and I just was like, I'm done. I want to go home. And I didn't even finish playing the mock audition. And I had to shake it. It felt dirty on me, like just feeling the amount of disappointment in myself, but also because of the amount of pressure we put on ourselves, especially preparing for auditions, like as a performance major. It can really get you going in your head. I was constantly like, oh, how are you able to play it so bad? Like, and probably wasn't even that bad. I was just so in my head about it. And so that is a problem. Like, you do associate your failures with yourself. And then it's like the imposter syndrome. It's like the things that go well, you're like, was it really that, or was there some other reason why I did so well yet, or was it a fluke? But then when it's like something we do, like a failure, it's like, yeah, that was all you. Like, that was you failed, and that you're a bad person because of that. And it's not a good thing to do, because like, development is just this. It isn't just this. It's a constant. Every time, sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, then you go back up, and you have to find your own way. And yeah, it's so hard not to compare ourselves, right? To the people around us, the people that we see winning jobs or winning competitions. Like, you're like, wow, he's my age, or she's my age, or they're like, you're younger than me even, and they're doing these things. And it's not a good place to be mentally. It'll really mess you up. Everyone is on their own journey, and the things that are not meant for you, that means there's something else better meant for you. And it may suck. I know that, because with auditions, competitions, and everything, when you don't get something, we can take it really personally, right? I personally, like, just, I'm like, why was it not me? Why was it not me? Instead of thinking, wow, someone else just got something that was really meant for them. And that's kind of what I have to start, and I have been starting to think that anything that I wasn't given wasn't meant for me. And it is what it is. And so, and yeah, and I'm sure that'll be an episode later on that we talk about just imposter syndrome in general. But that has been something that has come out of this for me, especially after auditions. Like that slew of auditions, I had 7 for my master's, and it was rough. It was a lot. It was like every weekend, go plane, drive, plane, like just constantly. It was exhausting, and people don't talk about that enough. Not just the 5 to 10 minute audition, but the actually traveling, the money to get there. That's something that I don't think I was ready for. I was prepared for as much as I was the playing aspect of it. But yeah, so it's during these times, I feel like the most important thing, like Anthony mentioned, like I mentioned, is your mental health, and just making sure that you are okay, and that like whenever you pick up your instrument or you start practicing with whatever you're doing, that you are in that right headspace to do so. Because if not, you could be doing more damage than good, and you don't even know it. But I think that we are all in way better places now than we were then. You know, it's nice to see everyone like Anthony is in Florida doing his thing. And yeah, tell us more about Wildwood.
Well, yeah, I just want to piggyback on something that you said is I just had a thought like, don't let decisions by other people affect who you are. Um, I've been told since I was younger, you're going to hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. And don't let those no's break you down, because that was not meant for you. That was meant for somebody else. But when you get that yes, that is meant for you. And this goes for Wildwood. I had many interviews, and I got told no quite a few times where it was like, am I even going to teach it? Is this right for me? Like, no one really prepare you to hear no. Everyone is like, you're going to get it, boom, boom, boom. No one ever says, be prepared for the no's. Um, and so you hear all these no's, and for when you're teaching, a lot of places want you to have some type of experience. So when you're fresh out of college with no actual teaching experience, and they're like, well, we're looking for someone that's been teaching 3 to 5 years. Well, what is there for me? What is there for a person that just graduated from college? What is going on? It's like you're not even giving me a chance to get the experience. So it was that was also part of the stress factor of the summer of like, what in the world? I mean, my teachers in college, they said, be prepared. They did say be prepared. People want experience. But what I hope and I pray for, and I hope that I am one of the ones that'll be in those positions, is look for those people who just graduated from college. Look to see if they have some potential, because the thing is, once you unlock potential, those are the people that will continue to bring success for themselves and for you and for every artist thing. We always want to uplift music at the end of the day. Those are the type of people I want to be in music, because they know how it is to fight up instead of traveling down. Okay. So please don't let those no's really determine who you are. I had to learn that. I really did. And luckily, I got my big yes at Wildwood, and it was for me. It was just for who I am and being here and just talking with some of the staff. I have the staff here at Wildwood is some of the best people I've ever met. So supportive. They're always like, do you need anything? What is there? All of this. The staff is there for me. Literally just at a game, one of the teachers there, she's also a band mom, but she was helping. She's like, do you need anything? And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here, because there are places in the world where the staff don't want anything to do with band, anything to do with choir, but they are always here. And it is so refreshing to see that. So being here is where I need to be. At this point in my life, this is where I need to be. And I hope that I am doing service to the kids and to the community around, because they are giving me something. So I hope that I'm giving something of equal value back to them. So that is how I find my enjoyment in just teaching is I hope that my kids learn something from me. Yesterday on Friday in choir class, I actually taught them a little bit of conducting, where we're doing Christmas music because it's October, and in music world, October is Christmas time. So we started Christmas music, and on Friday, you know, after a long week, I was like, well, what can I do? And I was like, all right, who wants to come up and conduct? And there was quite a few people who raised their hands and they came up. Did they know exactly what they were doing? No. But was it fun to get the spirit up? Yes, it absolutely was. So I was at the piano playing. They were cueing me in, cueing the choir. One of my students, the choir didn't come in, and she was like, I just gave the biggest prep and y'all did not come in. And it just tickled me because I was like, that is something I would say as well. But also, you know, she is brand new at this, and she's like, y'all need to be paying attention. And it's so good. It's those little moments that really keep you invested in teaching. And those are the times where I'm like, this is exactly where I want to be, where I need to be. So those are some of my COVID stories that have happened over the past 4 or 5 months. And so I'm glad to be here. Also, a good thing that happened out of COVID, this podcast. So we're here.
This is true. This is true. To piggyback off of Anthony, the good things and what did we gain and all this other stuff. I know for myself personally, when the heat of the semester and teaching, you don't get to fix the cracks that pop up in your foundation of like music knowledge, playing knowledge, life in general. So like this, like I think about a month and a half before I came to Western, to Kalamazoo, I started just going back to the basics. Pulled out the Trumpet Bible, which is the Arbin book, went to the pages that everybody be talking about, all the professors, you need to do this page, do this page. Well, finally I did the pages. I finally sat down and did it and practiced like with the drone, with the med, with the drum beats, recording myself. Like I've always been told, like, I always questioned that. I was like, why do I need this with a met? Mets are stupid. They make me sound wrong. I don't want to sound wrong. I want to sound right. And then with a drone too, because I don't have a good ear. It's no secret to all my friends. This thing don't work. To hear intervals and stuff of that nature. Sit down with a drone and hear how out of tune I am half the time. I wanted to quit. But the metronome didn't let me quit. So that's why you use them together, because one pushes you along, lets you try to forget what you just shouldn't have heard. But I got to go back to the basics, which I've neglected for a while because we're just pushing rep. In undergrad, sometimes it just seems like you're pushing ensemble rep, you're pushing solo rep, you're learning excerpts. Especially your senior year, you're just like getting ready for all the grad auditions, or you're like your education major, you're getting ready to teach your last semester and then go be a teacher. And it's just like we always get rolling down the hill, but COVID kind of stopped that and let you reapproach the hill, I would say. So it was really good. And I mean, coming up here, like grad audition results, that was rough. Luckily, I started out with a yes before any of the no's came. So I was like, okay, we are good. Anything happens, I got this. You know what I mean? But the no's hurt. The no's hurt. Even the wait list hurt. You're like, oh, because you're like, I was this close. But I think for me, coming to Kalamazoo, which is a lot like Macon, Georgia. If anybody knows Macon, it's very slow paced. Anybody knows Kennesaw, you're on a speedway. You know what I mean? I was that person on the speedway. I jumped on and I went faster. And it's been good for me to just relax, become a suburban dog dad, get my coffee from the local coffee shop, shop at like fresh markets. You know, I am the epitome of a suburban dad. I even drive a white like sedan. Like I am the epitome of a suburban dog dad. And my dog is looking at me like, what are you talking about? Why aren't we going for a WAOK? Can't say it or he'll start getting crazy. So for me, calming down my inner self has been revolutionary. Now I listen to a lot of house music now. I was going to talk to Anthony and Lauren about this before, but like in the car in the morning when I'm not listening to trumpet, try not to do that unless I'm in like at school now. I listen to house chill music. Never done that before. And I'm just like chill now. I'm like a hippie, but I'm not a hippie because I'm not a hippie. And I'm just relaxing and chilling. I get to the morning, get to school at 8 a.m. I'm like, pull out my trumpet. I'm like, I don't care what comes out. We're just going to get going. I'm chill. I'm zen, drinking my coffee. I got my water in the other hand. Now I'm not dehydrated. And that's what COVID has offered me, was to slow myself down. Because I would often run myself ragged and like sleep for like 3 hours at night and then just run myself ragged again. And like Anthony can attest to it. He like texted me when we were living together, and it was in the heat of like Marching Band season is my favorite season. And Anthony does not understand why. I love it. I go crazy for it. Like that is my time. And I'll be like up at 2 a.m. just like listening to stuff, and like listening to like Southern University, just like Holy Grail, just like getting it. And then like DCI stuff, which is like Nerdum Kingdom. And Anthony's like, why are you, what do you do? It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
I was his next door neighbor in our apartment. So anything he was listening to is waking me up out of my sleep. And if you know me, you better respect my sleeping time. So I'm hearing nothing but loud brass playing. And I just sent him a nice, nasty text. Please get off of all this and go to bed. Okay? Please go to bed.
I just sent him the link to the video. And then he would just walk up to the door. I'm like, hey, you want to listen? And then I'll finally go to sleep and then sleep through my alarm, you know, how everybody does it. If you don't sleep through your alarm, you're not doing life right. But I'm going to let Lauren talk about like what she has actually gained from COVID. Because we talk about negatives a lot. Let's talk about what we gained.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, of course, relative pitch being born, it was a really amazing thing. It kind of came later, like this was a more recent development than other things. But having this as a project to work on and look forward to has been so rewarding in so many different ways. It's a great talking point to friends and families. Like, how did this happen? Like whose idea was it? Like, what are you guys going to do with it? And it's a beautiful thing that's come out of it, and it's making us even closer. Because a lot of people, you know, drift away. Like some friendships, unfortunately, relationships don't last longer than a class, or one class a semester, or even a year, or a degree. But I think this wasn't going anywhere, but now this is just strengthening it even more. So I think, because relationships are super important to me, and so having this as a thing that we get to do together is so rewarding, and I love it so much. So this was an amazing thing to come out of it. I'm currently, you know, doing my master's at UNM. That's in Albuquerque, New Mexico right now. And the main thing I was worried about was how am I going to find friends during a pandemic? And that's like the main thing, that as I'm back home right now, and everyone's been like, have you found your group yet? Have you found your people? And like my studio at UNM like is kind of like made up of some of the most amazing people, like personality wise, but also like great musicians as well. So it's so nice having like that friendship to come out of it, because I wasn't expecting it. I was like, I'm probably not going to find people who are, you know, comfortable hanging out during this, or can't even find people at all because most classes are online. So it's like you can't really meet people. But I was able to find like a group of people, and that's been really great. Like that's really important to me, to have like your nest of people wherever you go, because it's like the people who support you, the people who help you when you need something, you have to call, like I truly need help with this. Those are your people. So that's been a continuous thing, I think, in my life, and I think all of our lives, is just having the people who you can rely on and everything. But right now, it is the time where, because we don't have super harsh deadlines, or I don't at the moment have super harsh deadlines, it's the time where I get to work on scales a lot. I get to really work on, like, bring out the tuner and really, really look at, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Let me fix that. Adjust, like, positioning and things that kind of get neglected during audition season when you're just constantly running rep all the time, all the time, all the time. And so it's getting back to the basics. I've been doing, the scales, melodic, minor, harmonic minor, major, all those, the ones that I hate. Um, and my technique books and exercises, Tafano and Gobert, shout out flute players, you know what that is. And just like etudes galore, just doing etudes and really try to focus on just those fundamentals, because they really do, like, go over and apply to the music that you play. And I don't think it's hard to do those when you're constantly preparing for auditions. It's hard to really focus on your fundamentals when you're constantly doing a concert, recital, audition, something. So that is a positive out of this, is even though there aren't deadlines to keep us structured down and held down, we have this opportunity to focus on things that we normally wouldn't have time to. And so that's kind of like, when I do my warm-up sessions, that's kind of how I start, is just doing a nice long hour of, like, power hour. I think my friend Jimmy coined that. He just calls it power hour, of just like fundamentals, and really, like, just laying in there and getting a nice foundation and getting warmed up. And then you go to your repertoire that you're learning for whatever recital or anything. And so that's kind of what I've been up to, just finding a healthy balance between practicing, academic work, obviously, social life, me time. I've been trying to find series to just really get invested in. I love that. I love, like, putting my phone away and just, like, being locked and, like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is it? It takes you to it. I love that. Reading, or like reading books, or getting into a really good series is really great. So I think overall it's more solidifying the fact that I am a Libra, and I am about the scales, and I need to be balanced. And if it's this, I'm sad. If it is this, I am sad. It must be this. I have to find that perfect balance. And it's not just flute all the time. That's what we've been saying. Like, it's not just our careers or our education that, like, makes us up. It's everything. There's so much layers to human beings. And when we try to only be one thing, when people see us only as one thing, it can be a lot. It can be really detrimental to your mental health, because if anything goes wrong with that one thing, it's like, that's you. But instead, it's like, okay, well, like, yeah, I had a pretty bad, I didn't do as good as I wanted to my practice session, but I'm not a terrible person because of it. That used to be how I thought. Like, seriously, like, I used to have a bad session and go, I am a terrible human being. Like, how dare I, like, make that phrase sound that way? And I'm just glad that I'm to the point where I know that that was ridiculous. Um, and I hope that other people realize that before, burnout is a thing, y'all. Like, burnout is so real. And these are the things, these little micro things every day cause that burnout. So you really have to, like, be careful with how you talk to yourself. Like, treat yourself like you treat your best friend. You would never, like, say, oh, you had a bad session today, oh, you're awful, like, you're garbage. Like, that is never something I would say to Michael or Anthony. So why would I say that to myself? It's like, we forget that we are our own friend. Like, we're trying to help, we're helping ourselves. So yeah, that's and those are the kind of things that have come from COVID. It's a lot of mental, like, health things, and just finding that balance to make me who I am. And that's been really, really refreshing. So I think now it's like everyone's just questioning what's next, like, what comes next.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that I am proud of, which didn't really happen in COVID, and happened more recently, is that um, I'm part of the graduate conductor assistant, the grad TA assistant Facebook page. And I saw this one post where it was talking about, let's just have an hour where we talk about Hindemann Symphony in B flat. And it was just listening, but I found so much pleasure in that. I am not a grad assistant whatsoever. Like, this is my first year teaching, but I found enjoyment in that, because we are listening to some phenomenal music. We're sitting here nerding out. Like we were, I mean, not me, I was more listening, but everybody's like, what about this? What is this? What is this? What is this? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't talked about symphony in B flat since college. Like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been missing. And so that got me thinking, when are we gonna play this again? You know, when an ensemble is gonna play Symphony in B flat or Winds of Nagual or Elsa's Procession to the Cathedral? When are we going to play this repertoire again? I just recently watched some very phenomenal groups. Michigan State, they just had a concert where they did different chamber works from French composers, works by Han, Debussy, Ravel, and it was a phenomenal concert. CCM just put on a concert with Maslenka. Milliken just did some other pieces or chamber pieces. And it got me thinking, is this the new fad that we're doing? Is chamber works the new thing? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What is it? Can both sections, could big works, full ensemble works and small ensemble works, can they coexist? I mean, they have, but usually one dominates the other. Like what is going to be? So I want to hear what you guys have to think about that, you know, because both of you are, you know, in the and you know, getting your master's degree, you're both part of ensembles. What do you think? Is this the new thing?
So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation because I'm more ensemble based, whereas Michael, I believe, likes chamber works more, like chamber performances more. But I do love chamber ensembles. Michael loves performing in ensembles as well. But those are our personal preferences. And so for me, this has sucked. Okay, not playing in ensembles, like large ensembles. Like I was looking back the other day on like concert recordings, and I was like, oh my god, I used to get to do that. Like, you know, and just it's something that is not a thing right now, you know. And we like, I mean, look at what Berlin is doing, the Atlanta Symphony is doing. The groups that are in session right now are doing chamber works because that is the only thing that is allowable right now. And we're getting to hear some really stellar performances of these chamber ensemble, of these chamber works. And so I hope this is something that continues. Like, of course, during the season, there's so many things an orchestra wants to play, or like at a group at a college or university wants to do, and we're so like picky about our time and what we want to play. But at the same time, like the playing the same things like kind of over and over again, sometimes you need a refresher. And I feel like this has been a refresher for large ensemble groups everywhere because they're being, if they are in session, they're being forced to try other things. You can't really play Sibelius, you know, with a, I mean, like, you know, Symphony Number 2. You could try, but it won't be as effective. So it's like, well, what about, you know, Stravinsky's octet? Like trying some really cool, just like things that people actually wouldn't think they'd want to hear. You could change someone's mind. You could completely change someone's mind. So I think it's to that point where it's kind of like, do we want to continue down the road? Like, if all of this is over or handled or tamed, do we want to just revert back to what we were doing, or is like this thing, chamber ensembles and performing, is that something that we want to continue? I'm sure Michael has an opinion on that.
I love solo and chamber playing. That's it. That is all my life could contain. I would be the happiest person in the world. Like, it's fine to sit in the back of an orchestra and play, and it's fine to, I love wind band playing too. But it's just like, there's nothing better than like 5 to 8 people, Stravinsky's octet. Just like, that's just like, there's nothing better. Like, love conductors too, love you, Anthony, but there's nothing better than to have an inner conductor, like within the 5. I'm lucky enough here.
I can't do it without us. You made us.
Excuse you. I'm lucky enough to play with the graduate brass quintet here at Western, and we're doing a bunch of rep right now. it's so easy because it's only 5 of us. We just spread out and we do our thing with the proper equipment and the aerosol stuff and everything. But we also here at Western, we have our orchestra is rehearsing, but we're doing like smaller works like Mozart 36, the Linz Symphony. Go Mozart. We're doing Wagner. What's the name of it? We're doing a Wagner piece. Then there's a string orchestra piece. And then, so we have stuff here and then the wind bands here are doing a lot more chamber. Like I know one of them's doing a Gabrielli. Can't live life without Gabrielli. If you try, you're failing. You need Gabrielli in your life. And then there's like a bunch of other composers. But I think chamber music has taken a back seat in universities and high schools and middle schools. Like I can almost guarantee you, and this is coming from someone who's only 22. I'm in my master's, not in the field yet. But if we add chamber music to all levels of music, the musicians will be better because their peers are encouraging them to be better, not the teachers. Because if your teachers encourage you to be better, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know I need to be better. But when your peers push you, like every week, we have 3 rehearsals a week with a GBQ here. After I leave every rehearsal, I'm like, God, I need to go practice some more. I need to do this. I get something from each different player. And I'm like, God, I wish I was as consistent. I wish I had this lovely sound. I wish I never got tired. Like every low brass person ever, because your mouthpiece is huge. You don't know what it is to play like a little diamond. You know what I mean? So like I love chamber music, and that's my biggest passion. Like period. Besides trumpet.
Yeah, what I liked about what you just brought up was the idea of implementing chamber music into young like music education. And Anthony, I kind of want to hear what you have to say about this. Like, I've coached young chamber groups during summer camps before, and the thing that I love the most about it is the beginning of the week. I kind of freak them out a little bit, and I'm like, they're like, okay, when are you gonna start conducting? I'm like, I'm not. They're like, how, but we've never, and it's funny to see their faces, and it's like, so tell me, how would you do this? And they're kind of like, oh, I guess movement, right? I'm like, oh, okay, all right, so we're getting somewhere. And then having that like they start self-governing themselves. It's crazy the amount of leadership that comes out of playing chamber music. I absolutely see that as a huge benefit with teaching the younger musicians. Imagine if your little middle schoolers could play little trios together without you. That's taking it to a whole nother level. And of course, like Anthony, you can talk about this because this is your field, but do you have the time to do that? Is that something that most people want to do? They just can't find, or is it not in your curriculum? Like what do you think about it? Give us your opinion on that.
My opinion has definitely morphed over the past 4 years. When I came in to college, I was like, chamber music, yuck. Like, it's all about the full wind ensemble. It's all about the full choir. Boom, boom, boom. Like, I remember I used to tell Michael, like, why is chamber work the thing? Why is doing solo things? Because for me growing up, I always got goosebumps when there were like 3 or more people. So my favorite ensembles, like my favorite artist growing up, was never a solo person. My favorite group, I had a favorite group, was Destiny's Child. And the reason it was Destiny's Child is because there were 3 voices singing together, making these beautiful harmonies going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that kind of morphed into Wind Ensemble, where there's 40 or so people, all have different tones, different qualities, but they're all coming into sound as one. That is why I've just fallen in love with group things, wind ensemble, choirs, things like that. And I used to say most high school band directors or middle school band directors, we come in like, that's our thing, is big groups. And honestly, I think we don't have enough experience with small ensembles, so that's why it's really not taught, is because we don't have that experience that much. I mean, some might have more, some might have less. And that's why we never teach it to our kids. But I will say now, because we have to now, I have learned some of the things that you just said was the kids are like, wait, what? So my seventh and eighth graders, we were in the essential elements book. And I was like, all right, here we go. So I brought them in and I stopped conducting, and it just went to craziness. There was like, well, you're supposed to be conducting. I was like, no, you need to have an internal pulse. You need to feel what's going on. I am a conductor. I'm supposed to be showing you way the music is phrased. I am not a metronome. Most people think conductors are a metronome. That is not the role of a conductor. So we have been working on developing their internal pulse. With my sixth graders and my beginning students, what they have been doing, I have not conducted once at all because I have a metronome going every day. And they've been doing rhythm studies. So I'll just come up with a five measure rhythm and I just have the metronome. And then they go on by themselves. And you know what I found out and that I love seeing is that when one messes up, they're supportive now, but they start like, you messed up right here, you didn't clap on an and, or you didn't do this, and it's developed into, oh wow, we're holding each other accountable. The teacher does not need to tell us we've messed up. We're here to tell, hey, look, you messed, you that was a little wrong. Try that one more time again. And then seeing them like, you got this, you got this. Don't ever say you can't do anything because you can. I have loved seeing that. So I think because of what's going on right now, there is going to be a rise in small ensemble works and a rise in less teacher-based um, do that. And I'm very proud, and I'm very proud of where it's going. But I will say, here's my one caveat to small ensemble works. As of right now, we are doing a lot of small ensemble works that was written over 75, 100 years ago. If we, and we've seen this in the past, if we continue to just do things of the past, we're losing the future. So some of my kids now they're saying, "Can we do this? Can we do this?" Some things that they know, and I'm like, "Yes, we are," because if we cannot connect with the future generation, then music is going to cease to exist. So my thing that I ask whoever is listening to this, if you're a composer or if you're somebody, please start writing music for what small ensembles for right now that is using the materials that kids would fall in love to, because I love Stravinsky's octet, love Stravinsky's symphony for wind instruments. I love Han. I love all of them, but that was written over literally 100 years ago. What about now? And this is something that I'm always going to say, and I'm always going to be a big supporter of new music, because if we don't have new music, then the people out there, the people who are non-musicians, they're not going to come in here. They're not. And to whoever listening, because especially because I know we're going to have some people who are more seasoned than us who are going to say, well, old music, that's what it is. I'm sorry. I'm a young person. And it took me a long time to even develop my love for Stravinsky and Beethoven, all those people. So I know if I'm a music geek, what about the sixth graders, the fifth graders, the fourth graders? They want to hear something that's more modern to them. So that is my creed, my ask, my everything is to ask. Let's develop music for small ensemble for now, for the kids, for the generations now and to come.
Yeah, I think all of that really just says it's all about exposure. It's all about what's the top people doing. If I, as a band director, see the top bands not doing chamber stuff, why would I do that? All right. And if I'm a symphony director at a university and I don't see the top symphony orchestras in the world doing chamber music, why would I do that? It's all about like what you see the top people doing. So it's like using the platform you have, using the voice you have to bring about this new music, showing new composers, like exposing the world to new composers, new musicians of like diverse like musicians, and because that's how it starts. That's how it starts, is you have to see it first. If we're not seeing it, we're not thinking about it, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And so I feel like the reason why chamber music has not been as relevant or hasn't been implemented to the highest degree within education is because it's not doing that in the professional field. It's taken a back like a backseat, and it's funny because if you think about early music and like that, like from that time, it was mainly chamber and solo works anyway. And then it was like the orchestra, the huge ensembles are a more recent thing, but that's what we've clung to because it's big, boisterous. Ah, yeah, so many musicians, beautiful, whatever. Um, but watching chamber groups, especially like with conductors or without conductors, but especially for me, seeing young people conducting each other with like just being like, okay guys, like look at me, I'm like, wow, look at their brain go, they're understanding like, oh, she's lifting, that means that's a downbeat. And you see, like being a chamber coach for summer camps, I get to see that development of them watching whoever is the conductor of the group and understand the inflections, listening to each other, because basically, yeah, you are not meant to be a metronome. Anthony, conductors are not meant to be a metronome.
No.
You're to show the phrase and everything. So for chamber ensembles, it is basically saying it is your responsibility as a player of this group to keep the time for yourself, to like listen for the musical phrases between the members of the ensemble and you. So yeah, I think it all comes from the top. And the top isn't exactly a good example of, showing chamber music. Now it is. So now it's a question of, do we want, are they going to continue doing this afterwards?
One thing that you said, which is a big word, and I will always say this: diverse composers, diverse music. Because if it's not diverse, if we continue to play, I'm sorry, the previous composers that we have been playing that are not diverse, it's not going to connect very well. Because the world we're living in now is diverse. No one is alike, and that is what we want. So we need to invest in diverse materials. That's it. Please, let's just get diverse. Let's not let's not keep playing the same old thing over and over again. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm tired of it.
I have a different view of the chamber thing. Sometimes, like they mention, it comes from the top. I've always been somebody, well, you know what? Let's start at the bottom. Let's be the change. You know what I mean? And so, like, I was fortunate enough while I was at Kennesaw to help start / be the first coach of 2 different high schools starting chamber music programs. That was Cass High School and North Paulding High School. And of course, they had chamber music before, but we like really started. I was the coach. I came in every single week, and I also did some brass sectionals with them too. But like for me to see these students, like you're placing a quintet. Like when I was at Cass, I had 2 quintets and a trumpet ensemble. Very easy, you know what I mean? To see them go from like the first day where they can't even get through like row, row, row your boat together to the last day performing these works that are known for like high school and younger college by themselves, me stepping back, that was just transformative. And then when I hear them in the sectionals, when I'm there coaching all them and their colleagues and peers, they're making some corrections while I'm talking to these other people. And I figured in the back of my brain, that is what a band director wants. While I'm talking to the flutes, the trumpets are fixing their own thing. They don't need me to talk to them. Or if I do, they'll be like, we already got it. I just told them, if this isn't correct, let me know. You know what I mean? And that's what we get to in college. If we can start that earlier, imagine the more diverse music. And this is where I am a little bit of a different person. When coaching quintets, is a warhorse person. Your first year in quintet, if you cannot make a phrase out of Bach, how are you going to play all these rhythms and all these nuanced new works correctly? Like, yes, we're going to play those works as well, but we have to play music and make it and work together in a chorale. That's the easiest thing ever. Then we go to this stuff like Stravinsky's octet, which is right here. You know what I mean? Can you make stuff like that? Or like for a brass quintet, a very big standard is Die Banga Sangalieder. If you haven't played it, you need to play it. It's great. But it's old music, very old. And like I'd let Anthony one time see my rep list for when I was at North Paulding, what all 4 quintets were doing. He was like, all these people are really dead. Like, yeah, they're really dead. But this is just the foundation. And how I brought diversity, like not like I'm not saying I was a huge diversity person, because there's not a lot of new works for brass quintet that high schoolers can obtain and play well. You don't want high schoolers to play stuff bad. Then they're going to be like, oh, okay, we only have to get it to this point and we can perform it. No. What I did was I brought out the nuances of this composer is German, this composer is French, this composer is English. What is the difference? That is what we can start with while new music is being written. But we have to take it upon ourselves to commission those works, to like be like, hey, write this stuff. Like while I was at Kennesaw, I know my quintet, I think we played at 2 composers recitals that the student composers did, and we commissioned a different piece for was going to be our recital. And that is what we have to do. But like, we have to also be the people who commission younger chamber works, or they're going to play out of these Canadian brass books, or they're going to play this Row 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 Your Boat, or they're going to play Die Banga Sangalieder, the Bach chorales, you know what I mean? But I am a big person of, if you start with the old, you can play the new a lot better. If you start with the new, like some of the new works that's chamber stuff, it's just hard to read. I can't count the rhythms, and I've been doing this for a long time. You know what I mean? So the new stuff, y'all can't get too crazy for high school. You have to make it interesting. I do agree, but you can't go what you do for college. And that's what the new music just seems like it is overly difficult for difficult reason sometimes.
Yeah, some of it is very difficult, but when we're asking for new music, we're asking for new music for all ages, and specifically for middle and high school, because that's where it needs to be. Old music, yes, it is great, love it, woo woo woo, but there is something that is a disconnect. And then some will argue that, well, they got to learn it. Well, good luck with that. The generation, mine and after me, will fight you every single day until one of you is at a standstill. And I will tell you that right now. Teaching the newer ones, that's the real tea. Because like Lauren said earlier, our generation is not someone where you're just going to tell us, this is how it has been, this is why you have to do it. We don't take that, and the people that comes after us, they don't take that whatsoever either. So when I ask for diversity, Bach loved the man, but I'm sorry, the man's been dead for like 200 and something years. Sorry, goodbye, we'll play you. How we need to be the people who are alive, because the people who are alive, we can call them up. We can get them, tell us about this music. How do you want this to be phrased? There are debates, thousands of debates on one freaking piece of Bach and 8 measures. There's a whole debate about it. No one's gonna know exactly how it went because the man's been dead for over 200 something years. So instead of wasting, or not really wasting, but instead of putting all your energy there, we could put our energy into commissioning new works to be written for younger ensembles and getting those composers to, one, get out there, get their name out there, let them, come and get their wings into helping us develop their music, help us develop their voice. I love being a part of that. When I was at Kennesaw, getting works commissioned and being with them, and while they're doing their work, like I was the conductor for one of the string composer projects, and working with them, like, is this what you want? Is this what you were asking for? You know, also having my voice in it as well, but having that collaboration where the composer's collaborating with me, the composer's collaborating with the ensemble, and having this trifecta thing, that is my big thing that I love to do. So it's not that my just distraughtness about old music. It's just there needs to be new music. We need to be focusing on things that are happening now. Respect the old, but really focus on what's happening now and what's going to happen in the future.
I think the biggest thing about this conversation we just had is the idea of collaboration. And with COVID being a thing, I think the biggest thing that we saw come out of it was just more of people wanting a sense of community. Like the craving, we were wanting to be back together. We want to do things that get us more involved with each other. And so chamber ensembles are a great way to do that. And commissioning new music in general, you are working with a new, alive composer who is able to come in and talk to the ensemble and say, hey, this is what I meant by this. Or just go, oh, you know what? I actually don't like that. Let me change that. And change, because it's a constantly, art is always evolving. And so I understand both perspectives of, you have to make sure they can start with a chorale and understand where things line up vertically. And then you start throwing some things to them where they have to really listen to each other and understand things to a different level of individual playing. And so it's a starting ground. It develops into that. So I think you're both saying the same thing, and you're talking about the different points. Now, with having new composers commissioning chamber works where the children can actually start with those pieces are something that needs to happen. They come out with some books. Come on, composers, have a book of brass quintet for middle school ages. How amazing would that be? Or woodwind quintet for middle school, woodwind quintet for high school, and just have an entire book of pieces written for these groups of these ages. And you'll see they will start using them. They will start,
I'll pay for them. Look, band director right here. I will pay for them. And look, and this is a thing for the current DMA students, the current master students who are trumpet performance major, flute performance majors. Here's your doctoral, master's thesis, all of that stuff. Guess what? Make a freaking book for middle and high school ages. And guess, I promise you will get rich and you'll get an A and you'll pass and get your degree. I promise, because that is what we are missing. The books that we have right now was made in 1980 something, and we're still using it. A lot of those things are kind of out of date. So we need something now. So please, if you are a master's student or a doctoral student, you don't know what your thesis or your dissertation is going to be, think about that. Because I, Anthony Morris, right now on October the 3rd, 2020, will say I will be the first one to purchase it. Amen.
I would love to see undergraduate composition majors write stuff, because I feel like, you're going through, I'm not a composition major. This is all speculation. You can correct me, send me a Facebook message, email, let me know. But what I see is the undergraduate brain is raw talent, especially in the composition. You get more trained as you go, just like education, just like everything else. So I would like to see, because this might even help them, they compose for younger, because you are the younger. And as you get older, you can write the works. And if you want to be in undergrad and write for our high schools and, college, do that too. But I feel like the undergraduate composition majors new to this, it would benefit them so much to write for middle school, write for high school. Because I'm telling you, if you do that and you release them, you will be the guy going to coach these and do that stuff. And then your masters will just open up. Your doctoral will just open up because you already made your brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, and also if there are books out there for these things, please let us know. If there are sources where people are composing, these for these small young chamber ensembles and everything, tell us. And maybe it's a thing, but it's not. People aren't doing it, so people aren't using it. We're not searching for it, but let's make it more relevant. Like I would love to see that. I would love to see that. And it's something that isn't going to just change tomorrow, right? It's something that has to be a gradual thing that we have to implement and continue to do so that it actually lasts a really long time. So I love that. I love that discussion about the chamber ensembles because we love chamber music, just like we love full ensemble, but it is a different level of learning and it's different skills. And so if we're not doing those, implementing those in like young education, then that's a whole nother skill set that is lost on them. So that is, we'll see what happens in a year from now, in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, what changes. Is it going to be our generation to do it? The next generation? I hope to see it in my lifetime.
I do too. Like Lauren just said, if there is any materials that you know of that composers have written in the past 10 or so years, please, please, please send us a message. Either comment on YouTube, send it to our email at relativepitch podcast at gmail.com. Go ahead and DM one of us on either Instagram or Facebook, or send to our personal email, something. Let us know, because each one of us, at the end of the day, we want to be teaching somewhere. I know Michael wants to be teaching trumpet at a university. Lauren wants to possibly teach flute at a university. I would like to teach as well, or well, I am teaching, but future. But we need these. And honestly, getting a list of those resources and spreading the word, because we cannot ask these composers to create things and no one is doing their stuff. Again, this is their livelihood as well. So we need to go ahead and start spreading it out. This is 2020 and we need to be doing that. We need to be uplifting everyone in this field, because if we don't uplift from inside, then nobody else will. So we
Yes,
need to go
let
ahead.
us promote you. Let us help us help you.
Yes,
It's,
please, please.
please, absolutely.
And I think we're getting into the part of the episode where we're going to start wrapping up. And
Yes.
just like the last one, I have another quote for you if you can find it. And this really goes into what we're doing now. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true. And that is so important with music students right now. You, I, us are going to be told no for so long. You honestly have to just kick down the door. Like I remember when I was the third year or second year, begging to start coaching some chamber ensembles at a high school or middle school. And then by the time I graduated, I've coached, like I had 4 quintets at the last high school I was at. 4, 1 per each grade level. Imagine how good that freshman quintet is going to be in 3 years from now. You know what I mean? Chamber music is a big part of things. It needs to come back into our curriculum. We really need to make it a priority. That's selfishly, you know what I mean? But high school band directors, hire undergrads, hire master students, hire people who want to do it and have a passion. Because honestly, I ain't trying to diminish our self-worth, but we will work for a little bit less than the normal rate if your kids are passionate about it.
Now, this will be a debate for later for the groups that don't have money. Me. You still have to develop some type of small ensemble time as well. So if you cannot afford something, then what you can afford is your time. That is it. So don't use that excuse, because for a long time I tried to use that excuse, but it really does come from the head. And the head person in your group is you.
And I think, if anything, being a musician in COVID time has taught us how to be innovative. And so, if there are opportunities that you want for yourself, your ensemble, that you don't see, do it. create it. Be the one to actually create it. We have created things out of thin air. Like me and Anthony, the Kennesaw State University School of Music Student Advisory Council, we were like, we wish there was an organization that would represent the students within the School of Music. We created it. It wasn't there. We were the ones to say it needs to happen. We're going to do it. So we're past the point of saying this is something we need. It's also something we have. The next step is actually doing it. If you don't see it, either you do it or find people to help you create it. That's all I can say about it. Is not everything that we're these are fresh ideas. We're young. We're new to these fields, so we're going to be having these ideas that you're not going to see anywhere. So we have to be the ones to implement them, and it has to start somewhere. So why not with you?
I will say it right before we cut off. If you're a band director, young, old, whatever, and you're listening to this for some chance, and you want to start Brass Chamber Works, please email me. I will devote time for you, even if you don't have money, to help you get it started and to build your repertoire. And coaching, I can do over Zoom. If you're not in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I will help you start it, because chamber music is an integral part of music that is forgotten about, in my opinion. So I think with that, I think we're about to say adios.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to follow us on our social medias. Everything will be linked down below. If you're watching on YouTube, everything will be in all of our bios, wherever this will be posted. So please, please, please give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe. Be all
comment.
that. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast, and I hope you hear us on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.